All right. Well, let's start with easy questions, shall we? Could you tell us your name?
I am David Malone, and I've been, I guess, in the city for 53 and a half years.
Wow.
And you were going to ask me where I was born. I was born in Edwards Air Force Base in Kern County, California. My father was stationed in the Air Force, and when he got out of the Air Force, my mother and father decided to come back to Portsmouth. I've been here ever since.
So they were locals here and then left for the military?
That's correct, yes.
What brought them back?
Well, again, they were originally from the Portsmouth area, at least my mother was. My father was from Wisconsin. I don't know how he came to Ohio, but my mother and father came back here when he was discharged from the Air Force, and because there was family ties here, and all of my siblings and myself grew up here in the city.
So did you go to Portsmouth High then?
I attended Portsmouth City Schools in Portsmouth High from '73 and graduated in '77. And so wonderful years, memorable years. Played in sports, football and wrestled. That's way back when they had wrestling team, and we had a wonderful time. And in fact, I like to tell the story also. My mother had 9 of us by the time she was 21 years old, and I'm a twin, one of the 2 sets of twins that my mother had when she gave birth to 9 kids.
Oh wow! Are you identical twins or?
Yes, we're identical, and we have a lot of fun with it because a lot of people get us confused, and they always ask us if we change clothes or anything. We didn't go that far, but we thought about it. We considered it, but we had a lot of fun in everywhere: school, grocery store, sporting events, everywhere.
Imagine that could be a good time in school.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
That is a lot of brothers and sisters. What was your house like?
Well, it was chaotic at times. Of course, my mother was so to the point. Of course, she raised us by herself because my mom and dad was divorced when we were still pretty young, and so. But she was really free, allowed us to be free and independent individuals, and of course, trying to keep up with 8 energetic, rambunctious kids was kind of difficult for her. I don't think we gave her a whole lot of grief. We respected people. She was very good at teaching us to respect people and their properties. So other than the normal mischievous things that kids do, we were pretty good kids. And so she gave us the freedom to go to parks and participate in sports. And so, but she had a good thumb on us. She had a good control of us, 9 of us. And in fact, she had that many because she wanted a little girl, and she kept having all these boys. And finally, the 9th one was my sister, and that's when they call it quits.
I bet that was a wild house with all those boys.
It was.
Were you on the older end of it or the younger end?
Actually, I'm number 4. 2 other brothers, well, 3 other brothers, counting my twin. He was born 12 minutes before I was.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit. After you graduated, what happened then?
Well, after graduating from high school, I, of course, went into the workforce. I got a job at different restaurants. Back in those times, we had Ponderosa. We had, or it was called the Bonanza first. And I worked a couple other restaurants. And I did attend Shawnee State upon graduating. I graduated from high school in '77. Attended Shawnee State in 1980 to 1982, and got married to my wife in '81. And we found out later on that she got pregnant, and so I left school and went to work for the Norfolk and Western Railroad. Worked there for a while, and then was laid off there. Then was hired as a security guard at the GDP plant there at the A plant, and I worked there for a while. And then I went to ODOT in 1986, and I worked there at ODOT from '86 to 2001, 15 years. And When I left ODOT in 2001, I went into full-time ministry. Of course, I had already been in ministry, basically was raised in the church. I started our church, Kingdom Builders Evangelist and Ministries, in 1994. And even though I was working for ODOT and I was pastoring a church, I felt a deeper call. I was pastoring, but I still felt a deeper call to be more full-time in ministry. So I left ODOT in 2001 after 15 years of service, and was working in the ministry. And even in doing ministry work, was involved in the community, a lot of community service work, coaching and teaching football and baseball. I still felt like that I wasn't doing enough. And so that's how I got involved in politics and ran for city council. And in 2003, became a councilman. And in 2010, became mayor. I was a president of city council, and our mayor was recalled. And our charter dictates that the president would assume the position automatically with any removal of the sitting mayor. So that's how we matriculate to where we are today.
Do you mind if I ask you a question real quick about your work in the ministry? And
No,
you
I don't
still
mind.
currently are?
Yes, I'm still currently a pastor in the church, and we're doing very well. And I'm in my now 3rd year of being a mayor, and 19th year of being a pastor. And I love it, and I hope that I can continue on what I'm doing in both areas until I get tired of it, which I don't know when that will be.
What have you seen change in your time working at your church?
Well, only change basically is I'm not at the church every day like I used to be. I try to get there. I try to get there every day, even if it's just an hour, just kind of see, if there's any important mail that needs to be done, or just doing preparation for Sunday night or Sunday evening, or even a Tuesday evening Bible study, just preparing lessons and things like that. So everything seems to be, still working the same as if I was there 8 hours a day.
It seems like it could be a very rewarding thing to see families
Right.
change.
Yeah, right. Even now being a part of government and being the mayor, seeing even some of the young men that I coached in football and baseball, and again, families that I had involvement with when I started the ministry, and now from not just from a spiritual standpoint or ministry standpoint, but now from a governmental standpoint, it's very interesting.
Well, when you stepped into being the mayor, had you prepared for that, or did it come as a surprise?
Well, preparation for mayor, I was surprised at how it actually turned out. I did run for mayor. I came into council in 2003, and I did run for mayor in 2005. And of course, in the primaries, there was 7 candidates, I believe, and I came in 3rd with 100 votes short of being in the top. Of course, in the primaries, they only allowed 2 candidates. And of course, in 2009, I ran for mayor. In the same scenario, 7 candidates, and I came 100 votes short of being the top candidate. But that was in 2009. Of course, Mayor Murray was elected mayor in 2010. She took office in January, and a lot of issues and chaos took place, and of course the recall. So I took the office of mayor December of 2010.
What has been your favorite thing about being mayor?
I think seeing the culture and seeing the mindset and the attitudes change, not only in government, but even among the employees of the city. I think the city was on a downward spiral mentally and emotionally for a while, and of course the operations of the city or the administration of the city had a lot to do with it. And the city even is in a situation where we're coming out of it financially, and so it'll give us more opportunities and to do some things to be more proactive in recruiting other businesses to the city, or even offering more opportunities for the employees of the city. So seeing the morale of the employees come to a point of an ultimate high, or at a high level as they haven't been in a while. So that is very, very rewarding. I've always, again, been interested in people's outcome, and the positive outcome of people, and to see that happen in government, it's very rewarding to me.
Well, having since you stepped in sort of not exactly unexpectedly, but how was when you first stepped in? Was it a rocky road, or?
I don't think it was so much a rocky road, because being on council for 7 years, I kind of, even though I didn't know the day-to-day operations of being a mayor, I kind of knew some of the processes, and I think it was a matter of going in and having our department heads know that they have a very important part in actually grooming me and helping me to become the best mayor that I could. I gave them the opportunity to be my ears and to be my feet, to be my hands, and offer whatever processes that they think that they would need for their departments. And I gave them a sense of ownership, whereas they didn't have before. And because of that, the transition was very smooth. I listened to them, and I think that's probably the greatest asset that I have about myself, is that I'm a very good listener. I listen to people and get ideas, because I'm one that I know that I don't have all the answers, and I would never give out the impression that I have all the answers. I listen to people and I take in what they say, what they have to offer, and sometimes if they're good, I apply it and it works out. So the transition was pretty easy, although I did go in with the idea that I would probably do, we've talked about splitting responsibilities and relationship between the church and mayor. Going in, and I was sharing with my wife, I would spend 4 hours a day at both places. Like Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'll do the mayor, and then in the mornings, and the church Tuesday and Thursday, and then I will flip on the other days, be at the church Monday, Tuesday, whatever. Kind of spent 4 hours a day on each, but it just didn't work that way. Spend more time there as in the office of doing my work with the city. So, but it works out good.
What has been the biggest surprise to you in this position?
The biggest surprise, I think maybe selling some ideas to council and having them to adopt it or buy into it. There was one process that I can vividly remember. In fact, the opportunity is still there of possibly doing a solar project for the city, and is going into the energy savings, doing energy savings, and even going to the, I don't want to say the city going into the energy business by selling energy, but it was opportunities that came up, and not being able to sell it to the council, which would have definitely been financially good for the city. And I guess it was just a situation that was an unknown commodity for them, and again, the mindset and the thoughts wasn't right. Forward, I'll say it that way, forward thinking and having a vision that wasn't there for them, and so it was hard for them to embrace it. So, and I think that is probably the most surprising thing, just getting them to buy into certain processes and ideas and thoughts that we have.
I know you've mentioned a couple of things, but would you say you have a goal for your time in office, and what would that be?
Well, one of the goals I set out to do, in fact, when I first came in, there was 3 or 4 things that I even outlined with the media and with our department heads, and there's a couple things that I even had timelines that I wanted to reach those goals, and some of those things, such as a city facility, a new city hall for the government. We haven't been able to do that yet. There was a couple of the things that I felt like that we were going to do. We put together a task force to put together a 5-year strategic plan for the city, for the operations of the city. We put that committee together, and I haven't really as of this time, received a report from them yet. And so hopefully, before I leave office at the end of this year, I will have that document, the 5-year strategic plan, be able to present to council, be able to present it to the community, to the business community, and to everyone that will be involved. And hopefully we'll have that, because it's something that the city has never had, a 5-year plan to look forward, something to look forward to, and to move forward in, and just have a progressive mindset about things and how we'll attract businesses and how we will do business for the city. So those are things that I look forward to bringing to the table before the end of this year.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the first African American mayor that we've had. Is that right?
I am the first African American mayor in an elected mayor's position. My wife's cousin, Albert White, was he at the time when we were under the city manager forum, he was a council president, and of course the council president at that time was considered the ceremonial mayor. So he held the mayor's position for, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years, simply because he was a council president. So other than the two of us, yes, we are the only two African Americans to hold the position.
How do you think, did that influence what the job looked like for you, or
with his time on?
With his time, and also for you coming in to a position where it hadn't had an African American in a while?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I think there was a sense of intrigue within me about it. And in fact, even before if I could come back a little bit, when I was on council, I had a brother who wanted to, actually he ran for 3rd Ward councilman at the time. And the intrigue of having 2 brothers sitting on the same council at one time was really exciting to me. And he made it up to 1 vote. He was only 1 vote short. And now moving forward, with the opportunity, even when I ran for mayor, the idea of being the only or the first black elected mayor was something exciting for me, although that wasn't something that I used as a campaign or anything like that. But it was an interesting perspective for me, or potential.
Do you feel that, how would you say, like, other people that work with you, was that unusual for them or new for them, or did they treat you well, or was there anything unusual?
Well, I would say throughout my whole experience, it has been a positive experience, and I don't think there was any I'll say any discrimination on any part. Although there might have been, and there were some thoughts about moving to get the city manager issue on the ballot to change the government. I kind of maybe had an idea. In fact, those thoughts was always presented to me, and I kind of discounted them, and I really still don't really want to believe that it was anything, any motive behind it. It's just simply a way of the way of government that they felt that they wanted to move in, and I guess the justification for that was 2 recalls of 2 previous mayors in the last 10 years, and maybe that was their justification. And at least that's what their discussions were. But as far as me being treated, I think I've always been treated with respect the whole time I've been on council. They recognize who I was as a minister and as an African American person, and I think by and large they embrace the different mindset and a different culture. And I think I've had a wonderful experience the 10 years I've been in government.
I didn't want to ask any awkward questions.
Oh,
I
no, that's
just wanted
fine.
to make sure.
No, that's fine.
Having lived here most of your life, and you've got to see Scioto County as a kid growing up, and then also from an adult to someone in the government, how has your view changed?
Well, I still think that I, it has changed in the sense that I think that everybody has more of an equal opportunity. I still think that there are some suppression or oppression, if you will. I can't really say oppression because nobody can really oppress anyone, but somewhat of a holdback. But I appreciate the opportunity that I have been given, and I think everybody has to appreciate themselves and what they have to offer, and not even consider or be concerned about what other people think. If I really had that as the forefront of my perception, I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be the person that I am, because I often tell my family, my daughters, and some of my church members that in reflecting on where I was and where I come from, yeah, I came from the other side of the tracks. And I came from a family, my mother, of course, raising all of us by herself. And she was on ADC, welfare, and so it was, we didn't have a lot. But yet we made the best and the most of what we did have. And again, my mother raised us to respect ourselves and respect people and other people's property. And one of the things that I tell my daughters all the time, you have a lot of influences. You have an inner influence, and you have your outside influences. But the bottom line, when it comes down to making a decision, is ultimately your decision. And you can choose to better yourself and a better society with your choices. Or you can choose to listen to what people say, you're no good, you'll never make it. No, bottom line, you're the final decision for your life. And so that's the way I've always looked at life. I can't say that anybody has influenced me negatively, because I don't look at the negatives. Even now, I hear people say that I've heard the judges came into my office last week, and we was talking about the budgets of the city and how the city is moving forward, and they talk about how optimistic I am, and they wish that they could share the optimism that I have about a lot of things that's going on. And so I choose to look at things at a more positive. And now again, that's how I'm able to change the culture, by allowing people to always try to look at the positive. If we look at the positive, we'll gravitate toward it, and as opposed to looking the other way. And so those influences, I mean, again, I listen to people, and whatever they have to offer that's going to help better me and better society, I embrace it. But ultimately, it's my decision. So that's the way I choose to live.
If you were talking to someone outside of, say, the county in Portsmouth, what would you think would be that we could call one of our best traits? Speaking, since you get to know a lot more than we do as from being in government.
Yeah. Well, I think the best traits for our area is simply the people. I think that's probably the least greatest asset that we take opportunity to use. I mean, you got people that, as small as our community is, we can have that family type feeling and family type communication with one another, relationship with one another, and I think that's probably the greatest part of it, being able to touch people's lives on not just one area, but in multiple areas and multiple opportunities, whether it's business, or whether it's in the church, or whether it's during a sporting activity. You have the same group of people, that you come in contact with. And I find in my circle, even like with our relationship, I've seen you, we've been involved in several activities, but I've never known your name until they said, I'll go get Grace and let Grace know that and to see I knew her, just didn't know her name. And so those are the type of things that I'm talking about. We do a lot of things with each other, but we need to communicate and just have that camaraderie with one another, and go from there.
The last couple questions I always ask people is there anything I didn't ask that you think I should have?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I could talk about my family. I could talk about my church. I could talk about government. Anything that you would ask, I would be willing to answer. But I think, I'm just here to address, and to voice my position on whatever you ask, and I'm willing to offer any insight that I can on anything that you would want insight on.
Mm-hmm. Let me make sure I've got them all here. And just for my reference, I know, where is your church located?
On the top of the hill, 17 of Waller Street. It used to be the Jehovah's Witness building, right on the top of the hill, Waller, the first hill. And we purchased that building from them back in 1998.
It doesn't, I think I know. No, it doesn't look like a church per se, is that right? Or is it the one that is an older brick building and has the look about it of an older church?
Yeah, it does, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How, have you, being there for a while, have you got to see, what have you seen develop and change about just that area, that community?
Well, of course, the dialysis center that's across the street, the Life Center, school, the facilities here. As far as the North End community and where I live, and that area of the church, it's basically still the same as I recall it when I was growing up. Of course, few changes, but in that immediate area community, it's basically the way I remember it growing up. Of course, the Farley Square Community Center was an area that we grew up in. We went to the park and we played there, and it's basically the same.
You mentioned the 5-year plan for the city. What are some things that you want to see happen there?
Well, I haven't been really involved in trying to push my thoughts and ideas, and we put together a group of people that has, a lot of interest in the community, and I wanted to hear them and put their thoughts together for the city, rather than just being my thoughts. And so I really haven't had any influence or input in that. I wanted them to do it for me so that I could, although, because I know maybe in 5 years I might not even be in the picture, but at least wanted something that whoever is going to be in charge, they'll have something to work with. And I thought that was very important to do that. Although in introducing that 5-year plan, I will have my input on it as well, stamp my approval on that document.
How do you just go through? If you were going to, this is a tricky one here. If you were going to define what it means to be a healthy, thriving community, what would you say should be happening?
Well, being a healthy, thriving community, employment is probably the greatest thing, because a lot of negatives that's taking place because of lack of employment. So, first thing is trying to get employment as far as jobs, and once jobs come into play, then there will be revenues for the city with taxes, income taxes, and that way there will be a circle of resources for the city, general, the government, and also for the individual. So to be a healthy, thriving community, we got to get some jobs in here. We also have to get on a physical standpoint. Everybody, we are ranked in Scioto County as the 87th of 88 counties as far as health, being healthy. We're very low, and so we want to try to improve the overall health of individuals in the community, and that's why the city government is participating in health assessments for our employees. We're engaged now in a smoking cessation program for our employees, and just trying to get involved in the physical health, because we know physical health, mental health has a tie to physical health. Even financial health has a tie to all of it. So if we're trying to deal with the holistic person, And so that way we can produce a generally healthy community.
I've noticed a trend. A lot of places are doing very health-centered things like
Right,
that.
right.
Well, we're going to have this on our archives and have it handy. Is there anything like advice for anybody that may watch it, or anything you'd like to have, on the recording?
Well, I mean, first of all, just appreciate this opportunity to share my views and my perspective on my life and the life here in the city. And I just encourage everyone to get involved. If you have a question, or if you have an issue or a process that will help better the community or society, get involved. Get involved in government. Get involved in the school district. Get involved with the healthcare industry. Get involved with your neighbors and your neighborhood. And because I think if we're not getting involved, then we really don't have a voice. And in order to get your voice, have a voice in community, you have to get involved. And the only way to change things, you have to be a part of change. Okay, because change is not going to take place. And if we want something better, we cannot continue to do what we've done all the time and expect a different result. We have to get involved. So I encourage everyone to get involved.
Do you feel confident that you've got to say everything you wanted to?
I think so.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
I appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. I appreciate you coming down.
You're very welcome.